Hold on. I'll say hello to you before we start.
I think it already started, Michael.
Um,
It says live.
not
10,
not
11,
on my
12,
end.
13.
Oh, okay. There we go. Hold on. Okay, got to get out of technical difficulties. All right, here we go. I have blow drill on. Um, you don't care if it's Dylan or blow drill, right?
Yeah, it's, Aaron outs me all the time. I don't really care.
Oh, okay,
um,
cool.
it doesn't, yeah, no, I can,
We're officially live now, right? I
yes,
don't see
sir. I
anybody.
think so.
I don't see anybody in here. I got
It,
4 watching though and 2 likes. So
well, there you
let
go.
me let me refresh. Hold on a second. That's still 2 likes. So
I can't really
anybody.
stream it to my channel, so I don't have a way to reach out to people. Um, but I'll try to do that.
Okay, Jacob Marshall just came in. We're doing Scientology only. We're not gonna veer off into other subjects.
What are your normal subjects that you veer off
Oh,
into?
different. It's different. Like
What's your favorite
uh
one? Top three.
um auditing, I guess.
Do you just audit? What do you audit?
I
What do you like to audit the most?
I like to cop watching. Like
Oh, okay.
you know Streets LA, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I like what he's doing. I watch what
Right.
he's doing.
I
It
watch
was
Bay Area Transparency and a few of
he's
those.
good.
Yeah, there's one guy that's up in like Washington.
That
Um,
is I Am Free.
yeah,
He's
I like
good.
the way he's very positive. He doesn't ever escalate. He seems to try to meet people and then, just he knows what he knows and he challenges people's knowledge. So if they lead with fear, it gets really weird. I like the way he deals with people though,
Yeah, he's really good.
for
Um,
sure.
let's see. Okay. And then long I got a breaking news
Oh,
story.
the Long
Long
Island
Island
audit.
Long Island audit got arrested today.
I
Just
remember he was what was
putting
it, a
it
few
down.
months ago he went, was it the New Jersey headquarters, and he was trying to get something and they arrested him, didn't they? I watched that
I think he's been
before.
arrested like what? This is his like 10th time, I think.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy. It's like, it's, I guess it's the firemen risk getting burned and auditors risk getting thrown in jail,
It might
for
have been.
exercising their rights. As long as
I'm
they're
not
doing it
sure.
within the law, I think it's a good, I don't know that you
Well,
have to push the line and push people's
well,
fears. You know what I mean?
he was wrongly arrested.
Whose idols,
Wrongly.
Jake Jackney?
What?
Nee?
That's my brother.
Oh, whose idols are criminals? Yours, Michael?
He's talking about mine. Yeah.
Ah, I got you.
That's my brother, and he likes to joke around a lot
I see. Okay. Yeah, no
with
worries.
me. So just
I think it's
go with the
interesting.
flow.
Have you
What?
seen the two Apri guy?
Yeah, he's funny.
He's hilarious. I like the
He
way he
cracks
pushes
me
it
up.
too. Yeah, exactly. I like the way he kind
He
of,
he did a perfect Long Island audit um impersonation of him. It was
oh,
great.
funny. I haven't seen that. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I mean, if they break the law and it's meant to, I guess there's a fine line. Like even to Apri, he he
Mhm.
was doing completely different content, and then this audit
Uh-huh.
thing kind of took off a little bit, so he jumped into that. So I kind of can see the bandwagon part of it.
Uh-huh. Hello, Naomi Roberts. And oops, checking. Oh, yeah, that's you. Long time no see. We're talking about First Amendment audits and Scientology. Um,
Chucky.
hmm.
Hi, Lucky Chucky.
Hello, Lucky Chucky. We're staying on topic. First Amendment. He's in Maryland. We're talking about Scientology and First Amendment audits, I guess.
Naomi, where did you see that commercial? They usually launch their commercials in like specific areas that they have a high content of
I
Scientologists. So
forgot what
then
area she's in.
they see, and you don't have to divulge where you are. I'm just saying, like, it's usually highly populated or areas close to larger populations. So then it targets the people, that need to see it and
I
think they're
have a
expanding.
question for you, Blow Drill. Question is Osa gonna be watching me and trying to fair game me here? You're
I don't know
Naomi,
that.
you're in Washington, D.C. Sorry to interrupt you. What'd you say?
I don't think you have anything to worry about. I wouldn't-
I hope not. I really do.
well,
Hope
why
not.
would you? Like, there's not. Um,
I don't know to the title and everything on here
well,
saying
that's just
Scientology.
clickbait, right?
Yeah, I guess
um,
if you want to call it that. Yeah.
no, I think it's Osa. If you give them too much, it's like, are we afraid of the boogeyman? It's
Are they
sort of
the
the
ones that
same.
do the fair game? Osa inside.
Scientology in general, it's a concept. Usually OSA is the group, and it was initially formed to um, protect Scientology in more of a governmental way. Like they didn't look at the normal person. Like you had to start a hate group, or like in the 80s and 90s, it was like Est and even the Process, and like all these people have connections to Scientology. And if you started a group like that, threatening their income basically, then they kind of focus on you. Now
Oh.
it's not nearly as prevalent to just go after everyday people speaking their truths. I mean, that's our right, is to say
Mhm.
what as long as we do it in a healthy and respectful way. So
Mhm. I, I don't know. I mean, fair game doesn't bother me any at all. They could fair game me anytime they want.
right.
I don't really care.
I think it might be the more of the by any means necessary. Like
Mhm.
for me, I can speak for me, and what that means to me is that my father, my uncle, my cousins, um, all are involved. So even extended family are fed. It's like having active antisocial personalities or narcissists, um, always doing espionage and counterintelligence towards the evil SP and delivering their effective blow. So it's in that essence, there's teeth to their archaic beliefs, but really it's like dangling a carrot in front of somebody, and they start believing that the carrot is the only thing that's going to keep them alive, and they'll forsake their family, their friends, whoever has counter intention. Um, and that's what more fair game is about than really OSA. OSA worries about it. OSA's like an attack dog. And whoever's at the leash, the end of the leash, is the person that you should fear, because OSA will only go after and trying to ruin utterly the people that are, controlling that vehicle or mechanism.
Mhm. Um, now let's see. Naomi asks, so Dylan has family in Scientology. You have family now, right? In Scientology,
Yes, sir, I do. That's right.
you have a father that's in it, right?
Yeah, my dad's actually in Delphi in Oregon, in
That's the school that
Sheridan. Yeah,
isn't
it's in
that the
Sheridan.
Scientology school thing?
Yeah.
Hello, babe, Caterpillar. How you doing, babe? Great to see you. I'm glad you're here.
Well, I'll tell you, Jack. How does anyone get in Scientology to
that's
begin
my
with.
blood brother, by the way. He's my older brother.
Oh
Yeah.
well.
How does anyone get into it?
Well, how my family did is in the 50s and 60s, my grandfather was like a poet, artist, musician. His parents owned a resort in like the San Francisco Bay Area. And so everybody who was anybody was trying all the new like pseudosciences. It was like after kind of Freud was, everybody expanded on the whole idea of the id and the ego. And so my grandfather had read Dianetics and taken a few classes and then went off and kind of kept being an artist. And then he had 4 children. And my older aunt, and my father and my uncle all got involved. Um, and so they were in and out of it as I was born and as a child. And then eventually my uncle married a Scientologist, and I grew up basically hanging out in the Santa Cruz Mission and in Los Gatos and San Francisco Org. And, you're just a kid running around with Scientology. He's selling books and doing stuff, and that I don't know. You don't know any different until you know any different.
Uh-huh. Um, Aaron, that's PTV
Mm,
Aaron,
I see what
saying
you mean, Joe.
AA Ron was saying something that um Cairo, the pro skateboarder,
Oh,
is
right, right.
he's up in San Francisco. It's
Right.
Scientology.
Yeah, yeah. He went and did a bunch of training for their new like it's kind of like repackaging the same thing over and over and
Uh-huh.
saying, "Now it's brand new." And it's brand new. And so people, yeah, I don't know how people nowadays can fall for it, but in the early 80s and 90s, Scientology did everything they could to keep any of their proprietary religious stuff secret, and or their priest penitent, secrets. And more and more, there's a guy in Germany that went in the org and grabbed the OT materials and left. His name escapes me right now, but he was kind of like the original person that like just publicly in your face exposed Scientology. And then a lot of those, books started popping up, like John Atack wrote A Piece of Blue Sky, and Russell Miller wrote Barefaced Messiah. And those are pretty good books that were written um, from people that had been in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, so it gives a history to my history. So, yeah, it's kind of, I think um, they try to keep it a secret is how people still get into it. And they honestly um, keep going to new countries and undeveloped countries that haven't heard of it or don't necessarily have broadband internet or those kind of things. And they're able to recruit. So you'll see waves. Like when I was originally sent to the Sea Org, there was a ton of Italians, and that's Italy, and had been their recruiting ground. And so now I think it's Russia, and they're in that area. And so they just keep going to areas where that are less exposed to all this daily USA internet stuff. And they don't get a lot of people, but they get a few people. So
Naomi said the South Park
it was
episode
great.
about Scientology was great. They did one on Mormons. See, I'm a Mormon,
Oh,
and
you're okay. All right.
yeah, and
Yeah, it
you
was Keep It in the Closet. I think that was the name of it or something like that. For the
for
South Park episode. The Mormon
on
one, I remember the Mormon one. But I
uh,
definitely remember the South Park one. I think it was called like Keep It. It was like Tom Cruise, and they were trying to expose um his belief, or um what he leans. And yeah, it was a good one.
my brother's asking, do they hook people with a promise of going to heaven if they're good?
No,
Xenu's their god, right? That's
no,
OT3.
Xeno's definitely not the god. He's
Oh,
like,
Xeno's not a god. Okay, I
well, he's
kept
like an
thinking it was.
evil, he's the evil galactic
Oh,
overlord
he's like
kind of thing.
Satan
So
then. He's like
kind of, yeah, kind of. He's
the
more
devil.
of the bad guy. Yeah,
I
he's the one
always
that
thought Xenu
blew up.
was the god. My
Yeah,
mistake. I'm sorry. I don't
yeah,
know
no.
all the vernacular of it all.
In Scientology, I think they try to make it that you're the god. Like each individual's their own little god. It's sort
Oh,
of
really? Because
yeah, absolutely.
Mormons said that Mormons are they're henotheistic,
Right.
and they believe that eventually a person can become like God.
Right. And sit in the like the
L.
higher
Ron Hubbard.
planet. And then the women and kids all get to go sit on the lower planets. You don't get to come up to the higher planet. I go down to the lower, but you don't come up to the highest because that's
I love
right.
it.
I
I
know.
love it.
Joseph Smith. I love talking to missionaries
Do
and
you?
Jehovah Witnesses and stuff because it's like
So
the adults,
you
sure, but
consider
the
them a
kids.
cult, right? The Mormons.
I control them. I consider
You
them a high demand religious organization. That's what I think.
but you don't.
Um,
Do you say they are a cult? I mean, you're not going to offend me.
oh no, I'm not trying to offend. I'm just trying to stay true to people have a right to believe. If we want the rights that are afforded to us, we have to also grant the rights to other people to believe and to live as they see fit. And passing judgment on somebody isn't something that I think um, I I agree with. So
Hello, Sunfire Sky. Keep it in the closet is a Michael Jackson song.
no, 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 it's not. Um,
I don't
or something closet. It was the Tom Cruise episode for
know.
sure.
Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Let's see. What was I gonna say? Naomi says evil alien that brought our souls to earth and our souls went into monkeys
Volcanoes.
or something. It's a
No, they
volcano,
went.
right?
They put them into volcano. They loaded them up in DC-8s and
Is that
threw
the
them into
Thetan?
volcanoes. They were frozen in glycol, and then they exploded them. And those are all the bits of thetans or spirits. And then in the higher levels, they're attached to you, and so you can't. You just keep repeating the cycle of indoctrinate. Like, have you seen the movie Clockwork Orange?
No, I have not. Stanley
Uh,
Kubrick directed that, but I did not see it.
right, right. So there's some similarities when they're deprogramming the main character, as to what Scientology believes are implant stations. And so that's all in this carrot that's dangled that you'll never have to repeat that process and you can be free and be your own God, basically.
Um,
Right.
L.
Right.
Ron Hubbard
Sunflower
had
Sky gets it.
Sunflower Sky's a Mormon also. She lives in Utah, same state I'm in.
Right.
Yes, Utah, go Utah. L. Ron Hubbard took a lot of ideas from Aleister Crowley and others, of course, and got some ideas. Leah Remini's mentioned, or actually Larry King interviewed Leah Remini,
Mm-hmm.
mentioning that he asked her, or he mentioned that uh, L. Ron Hubbard took some ideas from the Mormon Church as well. What's your thoughts
I
on that?
think if you're speaking into like later days, I could see that being the case for as far as the Mormons. I mean, what it's a good structure um to look up to if you were going to be starting a religion. I mean, it makes sense. Honestly, I'll tell you about if we want to segue into Mormonism a little bit. Um, I always
Okay,
um
we can.
when I speak to missionaries, instead of like shocking them, I usually talk to them from the idea of growing up in a high demand religious organization. And it's the idea of like if you were really searching, like if your mom was what, Protestant, your dad was Lutheran or whatever, and you kind of had a rocky childhood, and you know, you finally decided to clean up your act, and you looked around and there were no good religions out there. Everybody at the time was either selfish or this or conniving or um so you decided to start your own religion or your own belief system, and you get a bunch of followers, and you believe, like, Mormons are very ethical, very moral people. They follow, they have a integrity, and for the most part, like, besides the tithing, I'm just saying, like, there's in every group there's bad people. So if anybody has been um abused or used or indoctrinated, I'm not speaking to that. I'm speaking in bell curves and very general. Um and my basic point is I think as that Mormonism would have been a decent new age religion. But when you start adding all these, I only spoke to this angel and he only speaks to me and nobody else can hear it, and there's these tablets, and you start getting into that, it parallels Scientology in the way that, like, the L. Ron Hubbard
Exactly.
started, and he had all these people around him helping him develop the OT levels and really developing this pseudoscience and this, that kind of thing. And then at one point he wrote this policy called Simon Bolivar, which means don't trust anyone. Everybody's pretty much out to get you. You're the only true. And then after that, there's one true source, just like Joseph Smith. There became one true. They only speak through me. Like, I've attained this height, and there's no way anybody can attain any higher. So don't even try. In fact, I'll set a height right here for you, and that's it. That's as high as you can ever go, because you could never feel this. And that's what LRH did. And that's kind of, to me, in my opinion, what Joseph Smith did. And they did it very well, because they used a lot of these ancient knowledge and a lot of this basic truth, right,
Mm.
to entice people. And that's where the Aleister Crowley and a lot of, even at the time, that's where, if anybody's like sleuths out there, look into a guy named Jack Woodford. He was a science fiction writer in the 1950s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a wife that was like super ill, and they looked into Scientology, and they had made it at that point. He had made it to a point where even negative attention was good attention. Like, you make it to a point, in Hollywood, there was a lot of people hanging around each other around the UCLA area. Um, and if you really look back, it's weird, all the connections to government stuff, to remote viewing, like and that's how people kind of got into it, is everybody hung out that thought and believed a certain way. They all kind of hung out together. So
Hello, Standing Tall 710. I think he's in Utah as well. He's behind I call it behind the Zion curtain. He calls it the Wasatch curtain. I don't know what Sunflower calls it because she's in Utah as well.
mm.
Um, let's see what was I gonna say. So, like I said, I think L. Ron Hubbard got a lot of Mormon ideas. And
There's a lot of parallels for sure.
here's another thing. I myself say that all religions are a cult.
Right.
That's my feeling. Crash test dummy. Hey, how's it going?
I think from growing up in like in Scientology, I kind of think that religion was presented as a place for like-minded people to gather. Like, so you don't have to go through the basic nuances. You kind of know that you are either supposed to or expected to believe the same thing as the person to your right or the person to your left. So that takes a lot of the guesswork out, and being like, and like I say, if they take advantage of a lot of these ancient knowledge, like, we have this urge to coexist in a group or a clan, like as a fan, like how we've always done it, either migrating to find food or to change locations. Like, that's how we've succeeded as humans for long enough for it to be kind of a part of how our urges and desires. So
I agree, Dylan.
I think that's there, and that's a plus point about religion, right? Is um then if you care enough, you can find out the rest and see if you're compatible. And a lot of that stuff is, it's hard to meet people nowadays with all the crap going on. There's a reason why people are making fear a big part of the narrative. Insecurity and fear is like a big part of this narrative. And a lot of us react, like, to go full circle into the audits. All people are doing is challenging people's knowledge. And it's like, how many dimes are in a dollar? It's like, how many weeks are in a year? And if you start challenging people's basic knowledge and they're so tuned out, they get insecure, and then they're reacting off of these insecurities, and it creates a lot of fear in society, and it goes against our basic nature of wanting to be stronger or have strength in numbers, in my opinion. So
Yep.
whatevs.
Now you got out. What do they call that? Blow, right?
Yeah, I
How would I
escaped,
say that in a
basically.
sentence? That
I
you
blew from the Sea Org. It
so
would be
that's
a
what it,
blow is like, so it's
getting
L. Ron
out,
Hubbard. Yeah,
right?
getting out without approval. So it's basic the idea, if it's like it's a reward and penance
Uh-huh.
um system. So the reward is always dangled in front of you, and the penance is always used as a way to keep you in line going towards the reward. And so you're told, if you blow or if you leave, an unauthorized leave is the technical definition of a blow, right? So
And that's what you did, right?
yes, I did.
Okay. Um. So what's this about an SP letter or something that you're they
So
don't?
the
Yeah. Let
ethics,
us know.
yeah, the ethics and justice procedures in Scientology, and especially in the Sea Organization, are as such that if you commit certain acts, they have like consequences, and you're assigned basic conditions of existence. And I mean, you of course have to agree to this because this is all willing, and so it's the whole um idea of that penance. And so if you leave, you get what's called a committee of evidence. And a committee of evidence is supposed to be held of a board of your peers, so people that you worked with, and they gather all the information, they ask for documents, and if you're around, you're allowed to go up and say your part. And then they have all these the things that they rule on, or all these act like, you withheld communication is a suppressive act, or financial irregularities, or so they write up this huge document in the color of the division that does it. And the first division in the organization board in Scientology is the Hubbard Communications Office division. And that color is goldenrod, like this. And
Like the yellow you got. Is that your
like the
shirt?
yellow that I have on, right? Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So basically that's um when you have an unauthorized leave and you don't return and you don't accept the conditions and go to the RPF, or get assigned confusion or enemy or treason or something like that, or liability, then you have a committee of evidence, and then you have a SP declare, is what it's called, a suppressive person declare. And it's
That's
written
what
up, and it
who
used to
does
be
that?
sent. The Hubbard Communications Office does that.
Oh, okay.
They're like the personnel division in a corporation,
Oh, gotcha.
right? So I don't. What would that be in the
That'd be
Mormon
like
religion?
um
The deacons, or the what do they have? The elders.
oh,
You
they
have to
they
go.
do they do disfellowshipping in the Mormon church.
So
What
how does that work? That process.
um if you've done something wrong and you confess to a bishop, They
Mm-hmm.
could give you disfellowship. That means you don't take the sacrament, but you can
Right.
still attend church. And then if it's very serious against the
Mm-hmm.
church, like fornication, something like, or adultery,
Right.
you could be
Right.
excommunicated. That means they take your records, your name off the records of the church. Or you could do a blow, as what Scientology calls it. You could take your you could ask that your name be removed from the church, and they'll do it. So that's kind of
Right.
the way. That's the fastest way to blow out of the Mormon religion. You
Right.
can
And then there's a lot of probably what under the radars who just don't go and sort of
exactly.
right, right,
I'm kind of in that. I don't go that often.
right. That makes
I
sense.
should, but I don't. But
Right.
you know,
Well, and it's easier. So that's part of so in Scientology, the only caveat to that is the people that don't go very much and stay kind of, you know, on the outskirts. You'll say hi to people at the store, but you really don't interact with the church as a group. In Scientology, you can't communicate with people that they've declared or excommunicated. Like you can't have any interact. If they're at a barbecue, you can't be there. If they're like, you're not supposed to even be near those people because they're because they were declared a suppressive person. So that's how it breaks up families. It makes them choose, fathers and sons and mothers and daughters and brothers and sisters. Um, and the church dangles over their head the carrot of your eternal freedom as a person, as never having to go through those implant stations, as never having to, that you can see your true potential and everything that's wrong with you that Scientology fixes is, and that's how they, once you're indoctrinated, it's sort of the same thing. You're eternal. You can never go to the final place. You can't worship in the temple. You can't, those are things that are dangled over your head, and it's supposed to keep you in line or smack you back in line. And yeah, it's sort of it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, the Mormons are better at keeping secrets, right?
oh, I mean, the temple is sort of like a secret, but you can go online and find out everything about the temple. I mean, it's
Right.
the
And
Mormons
same with
call it
Scientology now.
sacred. Yeah, I mean,
Right. You can
you
find
go
out
to
if you dig deep enough, you can find out there's something embedded somewhere or saved somewhere or, you know, even those OSA documents that have been around forever that are now getting more public, and it's crazy. I don't necessarily agree that they should, but at the same time, if they get into the public domain, it's kind of, I don't know.
is Sea Org allowed to use computers or not?
No, there's that's the one thing about the Sea Org is they are kind of a slave to policy. That's the thing about being, it's like, would you ever dare question the Mormon Bible when you're in the fold? You don't question the word,
I
that,
think Sunflower Sky has.
well, yeah, well, and of course, and that's why you're here, bitter defrocked apostate. um, but when you're in the fold and you're playing the game, you don't question the leader. You follow the
You
wisdom, and then you'll
basically follow the
attain.
leader, like the
Right,
prophet or something
right.
like that.
If you want to truly attain what they're promising or what they have been living with, then of course you have to follow them.
Let's see. Scientology's dwindling, right? Let me see. Let me check something here on Google. I know Google's not the best source, but it's the best I got. Hey, Google, how many members are in Scientology right now? Um, it's not coming out on it. That
I'm sorry to
they
hear that, Sunflower.
what did she say? Since I
Since she
left the
left.
church, my family has been shunned. That happens. It's like Jehovah's
Um,
Witnesses. They'll do the same thing. They'll
it
shun.
happens a lot. It happens all over, and it doesn't. It's not to normalize it or marginalize anybody's feelings. And I mean, I tell my kids, um, that my dad chose his faith over his family, and it's a really hard thing to accept, um, and to meet those kind of people where they're at because they are fanatical,
Uh,
and it's definitely um a hard thing to understand and a hard thing to accept or to see where they're at, that they can be so judgmental and not accept you, but you have to accept them and their belief. It's I think it's part of what we learn in life,
Naomi
honestly.
Robertson
you know
says, I think 50,000 worldwide in Scientology. I don't know
yeah, I
what the
think that's
number is.
generous, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd say I would you agree that it's pretty close to like 20,000?
I'd say more like 30, to be
Okay,
honest, like probably
30,000.
30, maybe 35. So that's why I say, yeah, right between those numbers. And I think, the way Scientology and groups like that, you get to a point, and if you look at their business plan over the last probably 20 years or 25 years, it's been to this is where I think they copied the Mormons, is it's to gather real estate and to make like shrines and to make temples and to make places where people
Oh,
that
buying up property right and left.
well,
But
and
the
adding
problem is
value,
with
and like
that
that
though,
property is so valuable
what
because of how it's
Scientology,
been.
but
Same
there's
with
not that
Mormons.
many people going into those buildings though in Scientology, whereas
Well,
there's
right, but you have
plenty of
people
Mormons going into.
donating millions and no tax, and that's it's at a point you can see, like, so a lot of people that were never in Scientology,
uh,
one of the things that gets
like
forwarded
me.
in this group or in this YouTube, world, is that David Miscavige, is the leader of Science. There's never supposed to be a leader of Scientology besides L. Ron Hubbard, right? It was just like Joseph Smith. Like, who's the leader? There's not leaders. There's people that um hold and carry that knowledge and wisdom and pass it down, and what monitor and protect it. But there's not like a leader,
Well,
you
the
know.
prophet of the Mormon Church right now is Prophet Nelson.
Right.
How many members are in the Mormon Church? I'm going to ask Google. I think they'll let me know on that.
Isn't it like 1.7 million or something like that?
Google will say more than that. Watch.
3
Hey
million?
Google, how many members are in the Mormon Church?
17,002,461.
17
According
million.
to
Nice. I
Wikipedia,
believe that.
at the end of 2022, the LDS Church
How is anyone going to protest them and try and take it down as the protesters of Scientology taking down Scientology?
Right. Well,
It
and
would be easier for that to happen, the Scientologists take that down than it would have the Mormon Church.
right. That would be, and honestly, there's no real leftover. There's not like an OSA for Mormons, as far like there's those certain parts where Scientology is kind of very um alone in the way it operates.
Mhm.
Although, I mean, there's, if you dabble down rabbit holes and conspiracy theories, the Catholic Church, I mean, there you could go
My
on
father
and
was
on.
Catholic.
So yeah, I mean, there's a
I
lot
could
of,
poke holes in that church too. You know,
well, it's you have to look past that, even into the Gnostic, into the Templar, and to people that
the
um
Freemasons.
well, and those are all the same. They basically share the same ancient
Their
knowledge that,
Freemasons are secret. The U.S.
right.
Army, the U.S. Army has secrets. The Navy has secrets. The Air Force and Marines have secrets. Coast Guard has secrets.
Well, that you're talking about basically the same entity, right? It's the
Yeah, I mean,
military is, so
right.
yeah, of
I
course they
mean,
have.
the government has secrets even. I
Well,
mean,
of
you have to,
course,
you know,
like all war is based on deception. So yeah, of course they have secrets. I would expect they do. That's why we've sustained where we're at for so long. And this next part's going to be pretty brutal. But yeah, I think if we've practiced to deceive and well enough, we should weather at least this storm, I would think.
yeah, exactly. Let's see. What is RPF mean again?
It means the Rehabilitation Project Force.
So there's people that head that or what?
It's basically run as a Lord of the Flies kind of idea. The people that run it are always constantly being turned over as they graduate. So like you
Mm,
have like a one person in the Rehabilitation Project Force is allowed to talk to um a person in the Sea Org organization. And the rest of the RPF kind of just internally takes care of itself. So they have a few positions, but basically you're assigned a partner, and part of your job is to get that person through the same program that you're going through, which is with just a little bit of differences. Each one's like individual, but
So here's a question I have. Um, if David Miscavige, hypothetically, if he were to die tomorrow, who would head Scientology since they had L. Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige? Who'd be next? Tom Cruise?
right. No, actually at this point it would take the same kind of narcissistic psychopath um to grab the reins.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think Scientology and the Sea Org will revert back to the way it was set up, which was to not have a leader and to like to monitor itself. It basically it polices itself. So
I could picture Tom Cruise taking it over for some
yeah,
reason.
it's funny. There's a division of Scientology um that was started like a corporation that was started under David Miscavige, and it was the lady from there who was a spokesman recently was like they didn't like the way Tom Cruise was representing Scientology, and because it speaks to the idea that um celebrities aren't looked at as esteem. They're looked at as a pawn or a way to blanket an area and make it's almost like you look like you belong. If you roll in with Tom Cruise, you look like you belong. If you roll in by yourself, everybody's like, who's that Scientology dude over there?
Wow.
But if you know what I mean, so that's how Scientology, that's what the policy is written like. It's to use those celebrities to gain, because the idea is they believe that they have the only true technology to save mankind. And the truly fanatical truly believe that. And that's what the mindset is not an easy one to be indoctrinated into. And it's not even easy to kind of look at it through that lens or that filter. But that's how you have to look at it, is from the mindset of like, you'll do anything to preserve the technology for mankind that'll save mankind. So yeah, Tom Cruise is just a pawn, basically, is
Is
what the
Tom Cruise
person
an
said.
OT8?
I'm pretty sure he is. When I was there, he was getting audited by Marty Rathman up at the Imp base, and I would see his Porsche in the parking lot. He drove a gold Porsche. He had just done like risky business and all that.
Oh,
So he used to drive a Porsche up to the Imp
so
base. He
he's
was getting like
probably
handled. I think he's through OT8 or at least OT7, and has done. There's a bunch of other rundowns that are like a pseudoscience that just kind of make you feel really good, and like wow, and kind of what like Grant Cardone and a lot of the spokesmen get are like, what Chick Corea and those people, they get all the stuff that makes you feel all happy and good and winning. And then anything good that happens in your life, they're like, that's because Scientology. And so it's
OT8 is the high Caterpillar. What is OT8?
no.
OT8 is the highest you can go. They don't have David Miscavige has not put into an OT9. Do you think he ever would?
I so when LRH died and David Miscavige and Pat Broker took over the Sea organization and basically running all of Scientology worldwide, they hinted that there was a OT 9, 10, and 11. And
Ooh.
they also, in the same sentence, said, you all have to get to a certain point in order for that to be released. So again, it's the carrot kind of, it's like, if you
They
work extra
dangle it.
hard, right, then when you get to this place and make us this much money, then we'll release this.
People want to
So-
know what OT mean. Explain OT8. The highest you can go so
is
far.
OT8, right? So
Yeah. And
like
what
I
is
said,
that?
in the beginning, like as I said in the beginning, I had only originated to the state of clear, right? That I had mocked up my own reactive mind and that I didn't need to do that anymore. And I didn't get any higher up the bridge. I just worked and built vaults and did a bunch of stuff like that. So
No, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so OT8, from my understanding, it's searchable on the internet. What the end phenomenon is, what you would want to look up. The end phenomenon of OT8. And it's basically like the clear cognition, right? The idea of you mocked up your spiritual being and you're mocking it all up and you are the true creator of yourself.
It
Kind
is
of
a
idea.
pyramid scheme, isn't it?
It's more like, like a multi-level marketing
Exactly.
with a little NLP mixed in. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. I agree there.
And a lot of NLP, because that's how they keep you indoctrinated, for sure.
So OT3, you find out about Xenu, right?
Yeah, it's like the wall of fire, and you learn about body thetans and the idea, and you hear the whole Xenu story of, and a plant TGAC, and
The volcano.
and all that. Like, I learned that in A Piece of Blue Sky and Barefaced Messiah. Like, those two books talk about that. And back then, like, so I grew up with the belief that if I heard that, I would get sick and die of pneumonia.
Wow.
And so it was a very trepidatious thing to navigate, because I grew up in the Bay Area of like San Francisco. And so a lot of the papers would print part of it, or early in the 80s and 90s, and you couldn't like go near the paper. And I was, as a kid, you're like, I wonder if I looked at it, and I didn't ever until after I escaped. But yeah, it was definitely a mind control thing that I willfully joined and added to.
Sunflower Sky says Mormons love secret vaults and Ponzi schemes.
Right?
there is vaults in the Wasatch Mountains outside of Salt Lake that Sunflower Sky knows about. We're gonna have to dig that stuff up.
I know. We tried to build some vaults up in Wyoming, like probably about 3.5, 4 hours from the Salt Lake City airport. And it wasn't permitted, and they tried to do it in the middle of the night and got shut down. But yeah, Scientology's built a few vaults as well. So that's another thing they have in common.
See, there's a lot that L. Ron Hubbard, I think, stole from the Mormon
He was a
Church.
great compiler to be nice, and to be mean, he was an extreme plagiarizer. He just stole like plain sight and then repackaged it, and some people fell for it.
Yeah. So my feeling is I really still believe this theory, my own theory, my own opinion. I think
Mm-hmm.
Tom Cruise will be in David Miscavige's shoes. Shelley is in Twin Peaks, right?
Clickbait. Yeah, that's where I worked as well.
You work Twin Peaks?
Uh-huh.
Where is that at? California somewhere. Where?
It's kind of near Big Bear. It's about 15 miles west of Big Bear,
Oh,
up
okay.
above San Bernardino.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Sunflower says L. Ron and Joseph Smith have a lot in common. Yeah, L. Ron stole a lot of Joseph Smith's ideas, man. He did.
Absolutely.
Along with Aleister Crowley and all others as well.
I think there was different concepts originally, like the study tech had been um invented in the late 1800s, and so a lot of the vernacular or the nomenclature specific language um are very similar in a lot of the key Scientology ideas and concepts as other people that had already done, like the pseudoscience. That historian or that writer Jack Woodford explains it pretty well. Is that Scientology is basically using psychoanalysis as the premise of their religion, and it's sort of like add a little brainwashing and a little tweak of ancient knowledge and a little dangle of this, and there you go. You get enough people to believe in it and you get past that pass fail, and even bad PR brings you attention. So
Hello at the Nana Boss Audits Investigations. Good. Thank you for popping in. She only has a couple of minutes. Mormons believe that God came down to earth and physically impregnated Mary. Yep. Nana
right,
Boss, welcome.
what's the name of the angel that only
Angel
spoke?
Moroni?
Moroni, is he the one that Joseph could only interpret?
Yeah, Angel Moroni gave the
Yeah.
plates to Joseph Smith, man.
Right, under the tree in like New York by Sammy's
Yeah,
sandwich shop.
I think it's still in there, but
Oh, really?
some Mormon people say that the Angel Moroni took it back to heaven. But I think they're in that Hill Cumorah. I really do.
Well, and that even speaks to the idea of like the
I'm
narrative.
gonna dig it up.
Well, and there were a lot more, technologically advanced societies in 13,000 years ago, or that had been around for a long time, and maybe it's a lot, more recent than we thought. And there was maybe an intention to cover some of these people fell on some basic truths that people seem to resonate with, and it's interesting. So,
L. Ron Hubbard created OSA, right?
yes.
Okay. OSA to me is like the early Danites of Mormonism. They were the bodyguards to protect Joseph Smith and Brigham Young.
Okay.
So that was the security. I think if the Danites were to come back, they could defeat OSA. Don't you agree, Sunflower Sky? OSA would be obliviate, whatever you say.
Obliterated.
Obliterated. Thank you.
OSA is basically just based on the art of war. So
Are they
it's not
are they like
anything.
the Scientology of FBI?
They're like an external facing group that deals with any negative or that
They would protect David Miscavige, right?
Well, that's sort of the way everything's set up in Scientology right now, is to um fuel a megalomaniac, and that's if you are in good with the leader is, approving of your of your decision. So um
We need to bring the Danites back. The Guardian's office was first, then came OSA after a bunch went to prison for infiltrating the government.
yeah,
So you're
talking
trying.
about the Snow White project. So Scientology believes that there's a policy that was written in the late 60s that talks about once everybody figures out you're breaking the rules, be the ones that are making the laws. And so their idea is if they have the only workable technology to save mankind, then they want to infiltrate every aspect of everything and get into. That's why there's applied scholastics, and that's why there's the World Institute of Scientology Enterprises and the Way to Happiness and Narcanon and all these front groups that are out there to infiltrate in every little aspect of society, so they can take over all of society. That's kind of their evil plan.
Yeah, Danites, Sunflower said Danites are the Mormon hitmen, which basically they were. They protected the prophets, Joseph Smith, but they're no longer. But I want to start them back up against Scientology's OSA. I want to be the head of the Danites.
Nice.
But so your goal is to get Scientology off its tax exempt, right? And to take it down, right?
Sure.
Now, is that what your goal is?
No. Honestly, I don't think that Scientology's tax exemption is the right target. Like to take away a religious tax exempt organization, it would set the worst precedent. Like there's no way there's no way somebody in either the IRS or the FBI is going to hang their hat on taking down Scientology. All it would do was get them never promoted, always blackballed. Like, why would you? That's what the whole idea is. When Scientology fought the Internal Revenue Service, their whole point was to say, if anybody ever tries to do anything, we are going to be, this is your career. Your career will be fighting us. And so nobody's come along that really wants to fight them and make it their career ending choice to fight Scientology. The way Scientology is going to go down is that they're a slave to their own policy. And they're going to make these fundamental mistakes, and they're going to break basic federal laws that they can actually be held accountable for. And I think that's what the FBI is waiting for, is they're waiting for somebody to come out and give recent enough criminal activity that they can actually prosecute. Because the way when you get out of Scientology, it's usually this period of, and especially right now, all the people that are in like Scientology in the United States either have family in. So when they get out, their first thing isn't run to the FBI. They're taught, stay away from reporters, stay away from psychologists, stay away from, and unless there's somebody there to kind of hold space with them, they stay under the radar for at least a few years. And that only benefits Scientology, because then these federal crimes have kind of passed their time. And it's, I know it sounds stupid. Like there's so many horrendous acts that they've covered up. And unfortunately, we're finding that the statute of limitations have run out on. Same with the Catholics. Like these are like problems that persist with a lot of these high demand religious organizations. And I honestly think the way they're going to go down is through some very current federal like crimes, and they're going to start getting questioned that way. And somebody will go, I can hang my hat on this and nail them. But I don't think going right after the tax exemption as a religion is nobody's gonna want to be the guy that fought a religious tax exempt organization. They also SafePoint. They use, what's the group that protects religions? They use those as anytime there's somebody that attacks them, they go to that group and they're like, United Churches, hey, we're a religion too. You wouldn't want this done to you. And then they all stand up and say, hey. So until you can separate them, I think that's going to be the biggest kind of Achilles heel of taking them down through tax exemption, in my personal opinion.
So you think eventually Scientology will go down, right? Isn't that what you're thinking? What you're thinking?
I think it'll look at um like the Hare Krishnas and the
The
even the
Moonies?
Jehovah Witnesses and some at Quiverin and you know those are still around. Maybe even in the Process Church, I think changed names and still had like 70 or 80 members. So I don't know. Right now there's an independent Scientology people that left and think, oh, it's all David Miscavige and the text still works. So how will it ever go? I mean, and I don't, the one thing you have to realize, or I had to realize as a survivor, is people who stay in and double down on the cognitive dissonance and have done terrible things. But if they do leave and wake up, all that really should be expected is simple atonement and an obvious change in the way they behave. You don't have to sit there and make it's the whole do unto other. If you've realized your wrongs and you've now changed your ways, well, show it in your actions. And that's how we now exist. Like, I'm not going to so it's a hard thing. Even with people that leave, you're in Mormonism until you're out. Right.
I'm still in.
You're in.
I'm
Well,
still
but
in.
and you might carry a lot more beliefs than you think you do. And maybe there's some beliefs and that's why you keep your distance. And who's to say? I'm saying I respect you for being true to who you are, because you're not just following like a lemming. You're questioning certain things that don't make sense, and I believe that's what we all have the right to do as humans.
See,
And
in Scientology, it's hard to get out, right?
yeah, it's awful. It's it's
In
not
Mormonism, you can
easy.
get out.
Right. Right.
You don't have to stay in. You can get right out.
Right.
And that's kind of the difference on that level.
Right. No, absolutely. And I just gave the Hare Krishna as an example of a kind of even a more, like it's almost from that tune in, turn on,
Drop
turn
out.
out. Yeah, drop out. It's like that idea of like challenging that norm. And that's what that's how we expand as humans. You have to tear muscle in order to grow muscle. So
Hey, Darth Idius.
I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I have any more questions.
Yeah, what do you got? Otherwise,
do you guys have any questions for our guest? I don't know if they do or not.
No, it's interesting to cross platforms like this because I want to, get an idea of what people are seeing from the outside of all this whole,
I was never in Scientology, for the record. I was never in
that. Right. Well, even during COVID, there was an app called Clubhouse, and that's definitely not me. Is that beeping you?
How has your life been since you left Scientology? Sunflower Sky wants to know.
It was filled with a lot of learning and growing and stumbling, and it's definitely been an interesting path that I found myself on.
Have you tried to get your father out of Scientology or no?
Yeah, probably way too long and way too much, for sure.
So he's brainwashed heavy into it, right?
He's a teacher at Delphi. My dad is
that's the Scientology school, right?
Yeah, up in Oregon, in Sheridan, Oregon. So he's been doing that for over 40 years now. So
wow. How much does Seor get? 47 a week? $47.
Yeah, it usually varies between about 16 and 47 a week.
Wow. It's not very much.
Well, it isn't, and for the hours you work, it's awful. And the
How
only
many
thing that
hours? How many hours a day do you work as a Sea Org?
when I was in, I worked an average of about 110 hours a week. So
When you
I
get
would, yeah, we would work 12, 14-hour days.
12, 14, when you get in Sea Org, do you get to ride on the ship?
Um, there were ships earlier when Scientology had started, but um, when I was in, the free ones hadn't been purchased yet, and that's just used as a way to get people. Um, it's like a fictitious name. And when the Sea Org was started, it was a way to keep L. Ron Hubbard away from people that were chasing him. So he
Oh,
went on into international waters to hide out. And then when they came back
wow.
on land, they just kept the name of the Sea Org.
Interesting. 110 hours a week? Isn't that like 10 hours short of
Yeah, we
24?
would sleep a lot. We weren't allowed to secure until we got most of our products, so we would sleep under our desks and kind of live in the org and go home to shower. Um, and every other Sunday, if our stats were up, we would get a day off from like 1 o'clock in the afternoon till like 8 o'clock at night. And then other than that, we pretty much
And what kind of food you get? Uh,
it
that
varied. If you were
you get
downstat, you
beans
would
and
get, yeah, you get beans and rice. It was used as a punishment.
ah! Yikes! I couldn't handle that. Don't they give you a steak or anything like that?
Um, if
No.
you would get like maybe a good dinner at a restaurant like once a year if there was like a huge thing or some
Event.
monument, and it depended what organization and where you were in the Sea Org um would be if you would or not.
Um, no meat at all.
No, I didn't say that. They just made, a lot of stroganoff and noodles
Hamburger
and,
helper.
yeah, I mean, like burgers and, like it's basically like dorm room food, like commercial in industrial kind of
Can you
institutional
order
food.
pizza out, Domino's, and all that? Can you do that?
If you didn't want to buy like toothpaste and deodorant, then yeah, I guess you could.
Oh, that's right up my alley. No, I'm just joking. Wow, that's sad.
I bet you're right, Darth. Yeah, a little bit
About what?
better than prison food.
Oh yeah, it probably is. But in when you're there, you're hustled all over the place, going bus to bus. It's just crazy.
We walked a long time. We used to walk in. I was in Florida for a while, but yeah, when you're on the base, you don't really have to be bussed anywhere until they bought a property in Florida. They bought a property called the Hacienda Gardens.
Is
So
that
we
a
would be bussed.
hotel?
It was an apartment complex that was purchased, and we would all the staff were moved in there so that the Fort Harrison could be renovated.
Now, what's Fort Harrison? It's in Clearwater, right? Florida.
Yeah, it's a hotel that's been in the Clearwater area for a long time
Isn't that
that
where
Scientology owns.
Lisa McPherson was?
Yep, that is exactly where Lisa McPherson was.
And she died because of Scientology, right?
She did. Yeah.
Oh, it's a sad story. I mean, you don't see that in unless it's the Daybells or some crazy Mormons that go off the grid, you know.
Right, right. Well, he thought he had, he could deal with psychotic breaks, and he could deal with they put her on a thing called the introspection rundown, and part of that is to isolate you until you kind of get out of that psychotic break. And so it's basically practicing medicine without a license. See, and there's it, and even under the guise of religion, that's something that might have meat federally, right? That would be something I could see Scientology going down for, not necessarily a tax exemption. So there you go.
Oh, he said Shelley Miscavige is in Twin Peaks, correct?
Yep, Shelley is in Twin Peaks.
That's what Nasty's been saying. Nasty Nathaniel's been saying that for years.
Yeah, you probably heard it from me.
Maybe. Do you know him?
I know of him, but I knew
I don't
Shelley.
think he's ever been in Scientology, though.
No, I don't think so either.
He just knows a lot.
Right.
It seems like he knows a lot.
Exactly.
So, any other questions,
Thanks,
guys?
Darth. You seem
What do you
pretty
say?
broken as well. Well, cool. Good hanging out with a bunch of ex-Mormons.
Yeah. I'm still in it. I'm not really. I haven't. I like
what do they call those Jack Mormons, right? So
Yeah,
that's pretty apropos because your brother's name's Jack. So
yeah,
you guys are Jack Mormons.
I'm a Jack Mormon. Yeah.
Oh, right on, Darth. Well, welcome to the club, bro. It's humbling, right? After you're humbled for so long, you just kind of learn to take it in and pivot.
Some Frost guy says, "Thank you so much for telling your story. That takes courage." Yeah, and
yeah, I've told. If you guys want to find out, I've sort of told a bit. I've done a bunch of interviews. My channel is at Blow Drill, and
can you write something in the chat so I can put your channel up? Write something in the chat and I can put you up.
I think it's
put your YouTube channel up.
That was weird. It has me.
I'm going to get it for you, Caterpillar. He says it's in the wait. Okay, let me see.
It had me set up.
Let me check that out.
Weird.
Oh, there. Here it is. I'll get it. I've got it. I've got it.
I don't know why it won't
let me jump, but I've got it.
But yeah, I've done a few interviews around and that kind of thing. So I'm pretty much who I am. And if you want to check out, I haven't done a bunch of content. I've done a little bit of content, but like I said, I saw that you had subscribed to me, and
yeah,
I like to kind of engage. I don't, even with this whole SPTV movement, or even I kind of am by the people for the people. I've coached a lot in my life, and I'm more of a player's coach, like lead by example rather than bark orders and put people in my program. So I just like hanging out with the people.
It's cool.
With all the peeps, and I figured it'd be a good way to have some conversations, right? It's just a term I heard, Caterpillar, by a girl that I dated when I was like 13. She was a Mormon, and she's like, I'm not supposed to date anybody who's not a Mormon, so I'm like a Jack Mormon. And so it was like, I guess it's a Mormon that's doing bad things or something, or a Mormon who's not living
Jack
by.
Mormon will smoke, drink,
right,
alcohol.
right. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
But they don't get excommunicated for it.
Right. No, they're kind of under the radar, and they're like, everybody's like, oh, that Jenny, she's just a whole firecracker, right? Well, as long as their parents are, doing their thing and paying their money, and everybody's good, and they're templing it up, then they get the slap on the wrist, right? Scientology's similar. That was like Danny Masterson, and a lot of those people, they got, the slap on the wrist until they didn't, and then when they got what they deserved, they got nailed. But Yeah, that's a whole nother ordeal.
I'm a Jack Mormon.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
I'm
you should
not.
start a
I'm not.
religion, the Jack Mormons of the world.
The Dan. If any religion, I'd call it the Danites.
The Danites. There you
Yeah.
go.
I got to ask you a question. I have a question for you. It's a
Yeah,
burning
sure.
question. In Scientology, do they have any breakoffs like the Mormon Church has? They used to have RLDS. They have Community of Christ. They're all breakoffs of Mormonism. The ones that I
Yeah.
mentioned. Has
If you
Scientology got one?
they do, and when the Guardian's office got infiltrated, um, they had already started compiling what Scientology was called a Scientology enemies list, and this was like est. There were so many Bay Area offshoots, but you can still look up Scientology enemies list on the internet, and it'll show people and groups and like the process churches on, and then all their names that they switched to after that are all also on there. And yeah, they
They're
kept
not. They're not connected to David Miscavige, but they have Scientology beliefs. Is that what you're saying?
no, they were people, and part of why OSA and the Guardian's office was formed. So when the Guardian's office was formed, it was formed as an external facing body, right, to handle any external facing threats. And then there was a point when Scientology was being infiltrated, and people were, because they wanted to know about these highly secret OT levels, and does it really give you remote viewing, and does it really do this, and can you really, be exterior and have full perception, and all these things. um and then OSA started to look internally to find out and to try to find plants and people that were infiltrating the organization. And so that's how kind of OSA started, was to find all these people that were coming in, paying to go up to OT7, copying or keeping all the materials, and then starting their own little group. And so Scientology would sue them. That's how OSA kind of got its dirty tricks thing, was to go
Did they get
through.
paid? Did the lawsuit go through?
Well, they would usually do by any means necessary. So they would find out a contact, or, talk about the person's wife, or there's tons of interviews out there if you look at like OSA dirty tricks about what they will do to infiltrate and um change the, like, spread black PR basically, or shore stories in order to pollute an area. So
But
it's
I
all based
mean,
on the art of war,
but I
like
mean,
any religion.
are there any Scientologists that have broken away from David Miscavige but still have
That's right.
Scientology ideas? Are there
Well,
any?
there's an independent Scientology group. Like,
Okay,
it's, they actually call themselves independent so they believe in all the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard, like per policy and per by the word. So
but
yeah,
not
there's those, and then there's
not
ones that
David
took little
Miscavige.
parts of it and splintered off, and they're not big at all. I mean, they might have 30 members, or something
Oh,
like
I
that.
see.
So yeah, but they kept a list. Scientology, anybody that was over, like, could be a threat, then they kept a list and started trying to ruin them. If it was them, their wife, their family, sue them, whatever they could do. It's ridiculous. What kind of religion has a freaking enemies list, right?
So they got that, and are they still existing, or they get sued that they couldn't practice it
Who?
anymore?
Oh, a lot of these. This was more in the late 80s and 90s. Um, and then as of the 2000, like, once the internet, like, that's the one thing about a lot of these messiahs and prophets is, if they could predict the future, um, then they would be able to kind of see some of this stuff. Like Scientology never really predicted the internet and people being able to
Mhm.
share information. It's like, that's their demise, is the truth. Like, it doesn't add up. So
Interesting. Very interesting, I might say.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
will you come on again sometime?
Yeah, sure.
When
Yeah,
when you
absolutely. We'll figure out how to link it to my channel, and we'll
would
get a
I'd
whole
love
bunch
to
of
have you
different
again.
people. Yeah.
If you want me on your show, I'll come on.
I
That'd be
usually
great.
use
That'd be great.
OBS, and I
We should
haven't
do
figured
that.
out on OBS how to add a guest yet.
Oh, I had
But I'll figure
OBS
that out.
and I just yeah. I had
I
I had OBS and it just didn't work out for me.
It's hard. It's sort of a hard platform. I mean, it's not hard, it's just it's not intuitive for me, so it takes me to learn it. And now as I'm learning it, I like it. It's just not intuitive for me. So
Hmm,
I know
I
I can't
see.
right now, Naomi. I looked. There's not an option. It doesn't even show me logged in as my YouTube. Like I'm not even able to join the chat, and I don't know why.
Oh,
But I think it might be the link. Do you only have the basic account, or do you have the paid account?
I, I have a paid account. I
See, I
pay it
should be able
once a
to.
year. Once a
That's
year I
so
do it.
weird. Because
Natalie knows how to do it, right?
it came in as my name, but yeah, I usually am able to go in and click a button up on the right and join, add my channel, but it didn't give me that option, and we were
Hmm.
sort of short on time, so I figured I'd just jump in.
Oh wow.
So yeah, we'll figure it out and try it again. Not
That'd be
that this was
great.
a, yeah, we'll figure out some questions. I'll ask you some
I
Mormon.
really
I
enjoy.
like the Mormon. Maybe we should try to work on some parallels,
Yeah,
right?
that'd be
And start
great.
and talk about some stuff that way. And I think that would be a
Because
really good
I
way.
know L. Ron Hubbard stole some ideology from the Mormon Church. I do know that.
Right, right. Well, there we go. Now we have some homework. So we'll do some homework and
Yep.
we'll
Sounds
figure it
great.
out.
You know how to get in touch with me.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right.
Well, I thank
That
you,
sounds
sir,
great.
for having me.
Well, thank you. I thank you for coming. I really appreciate your time and efforts in here, and I'm glad you came.
Yeah,
Glad
absolutely.
glad we were
Have
able
a
to do it. Glad we were able to do it. It's over already. I'd panel up for that show, Michael. Oh, Sunflower Sky looks like Marie Osmond.
There you go.
That's why I
Yeah, can we
joined.
change the
That's why I
subject
joined
now?
the church.
Why
Donnie and
you
Marie
should have your
Osmond.
brother on and you guys could just argue the whole time.
Oh, we do all the
Okay.
time. That wouldn't
No,
work too well.
I know. Is he a Mormon or not? You're gonna have to find out, Caterpillar, because he says he's not, but he kind of is. So I'll leave you guys to it.
I am an inactive Mormon. How's that? Let's
All right.
discuss
Thank you,
Mormonism
Mr.
and
Malloy.
Scientology.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate the time that you spent with us. I've
Yep,
enjoyed it.
for sure. Yeah,
Get,
we'll talk again. I'll show myself out. Have a good one.
all right, get in touch with me.
We'll do. All right. Bye.
Bye bye. God bless. Please come back, Dylan. He will. Oh, that was awesome. I enjoyed it so much. This was a good show, Michael. Thank you, Cat. Sunflower Sky. Thank you, Caterpillar, for coming.
Hello.
Hello. What's going on?
Water.
Water, good. Check my later.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you later.
Yep.
I'll come back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, water. I need it. This was a good show, Sunflower Sky. So you're confused? I am not an active Mormon, okay? I'm not active. Eesh, I didn't even go to church yesterday. Hello, Seattle Judy. How are you? You missed a really good show. Right, Sunflower Sky? Seattle Judy, we love you. You're awesome. Lackluster. Okay. Where are we? Bye-bye, Jacob Marshall. Have a good one. Utah is the Mormon motherland. It's Zion. Utah is Zion. Hey, babe, come to Utah. We can meet Sunflower Sky. Where's Caterpillar at? I miss my babe. That was good. Dylan's a good guy, man. I like him. It was successful. It was good. Sunflower. What do you think, Caterpillar? What say you? Danites. We'll call it the Danites. Where's Caterpillar at? Danites unite. Yeah, Danites. Who could be the head of it? Give it to Sunflower Sky. She could be the head. Danite. I'm right here, silly. Oh, she gave me a blue heart. I'll give her a red heart. There. Yeah. I agree, Sunflower Sky. I forgot to ask her for dinner tonight. Captain Half Fun said Scientology tells people to sell their homes so they can take more Scientology classes. They have to retake it in a few years. Huge scam. I stayed here for Easter. That was so cool. Oh. No, he cleaned my keyboard up. It's really good now. Looks brand new. He cleaned it. Caterpillar went to the bathroom. Yes, D9 full is good. Oh man. Yeah. I didn't know that happened. Yeah. Yes. 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 I love you guys. I care about you guys. Each and every one. Dylan was great. Enjoyed talking to him. Words can't express how much I appreciate you all being here. Caterpillar. Yeah. Yeah. Start the Danites. Salger, you want to start the Danites? Thank you, Caterpillar. It means a lot to me. Yeah. Taking off Sunflower Sky, I think it's time for me to go as well. I'll find out what they're having for dinner tonight. God bless you all. Thank you all for coming. I want to thank Dylan for coming on my panel. Really appreciated it. Take care, everyone. God bless you all. Caterpillar babe, love you.